What if some of the biggest health challenges we're facing today aren't about access to care, but about what we're putting on our plates? Nutrition sits at the center of conversations around childhood obesity, chronic disease, and long-term health. And for many leaders in the space, plant-based nutrition isn't a trend, it's a foundation for lasting change. Welcome to the Marquis Masters podcast. I'm Nick Franck. Today, I'm joined by Meryl Fury, President and CEO of the Plant-Based Nutrition Movement. Meryl has dedicated her career to advancing education and access around plant-based nutrition, authoring multiple magazine articles, and working with initiatives like 6 Million Seeds and More Plants on Plates to deliver healthier outcomes for communities and families. In this episode, we talk about how Meryl found her way into the work, why she believes plant-based nutrition plays such a critical role in public health, and how her efforts are helping address childhood obesity and diabetes. We also explore her connection to food and family, and she even shares a few practical insights on how to get kids to eat more vegetables. Let's get into it. Well, hi, Meryl. Thank you so much for joining the Marquis Masters podcast.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here with you, Nick. Thanks.
So how are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself before we kind of dive into our topics today and talking about nutrition and health. Give me a little bit about your background.
Well, okay.
Seeing you up early, yeah.
Yeah, right. Big. So, born and raised in New Jersey, and lived in a sort of middle class area. My father was a World War II veteran, also an engineer later on after he came back from the war. My mom was a gym teacher, actually, so he lived in a professional household. Mom thought it was important that we went to the best possible schools, so we got to do that. And we lived really a very pleasant life. Beautiful. Yeah.
I love that. Well, today we're talking about nutrition, and we're talking about plant-based nutrition specifically. You are the president, the CEO of Plant-Based Nutrition Movement. Let's dive into it. Let's talk about it. How did you first become involved in plant-based nutrition? What was the seed, I guess, that grew in you to get this going?
Okay. Well, this started when I was 15. So it's a long story. I will give you the Reader's Digest, Cliff Notes version, let's say. So it started when I was 15. When I was 15, that was something like 1976, 75. The price of beef started to go up dramatically. My mom was responsible for the grocery budget, making sure that dinner was on the table. Like I said, she was a gym teacher, so she was very well educated in the importance of a kid getting 3 square meals a day. That's what they called it. When the price of beef started to go up, she began to get worried that she wasn't going to be able to feed the family according to the way that she had learned to feed children in particular. So for her, it became a really distressing situation. She complained what seemed to me like endlessly about the cost of beef and the cost of chicken, the cost of fish, the cost of pork, because it all went up. You know how things do.
Right.
At age 15, I was really super close to my mom, and I didn't want to see her in that kind of distress. Like, you can't be complaining like this all the time. What can I do? What can I do to help? One weekend, I got together with a girlfriend. There were 4 kids in her family. There were 2 in our family. And she and I decided, because her mother was complaining the same way, actually, the 2 of us decided that we would stop eating meat. That's how we would help. That's what we could contribute at the age of 15 or so.
Sure.
So my mom came to pick me up from my girlfriend's house after being over there for the weekend. And, she says, "How was your visit?" And I say, "Great. We came up with an idea. We have something we're going to do." And she's like, "Okay, what is it?" And I said, "We're going to stop eating meat." And she nearly drove off the side of the road. You can't. No, that's dangerous. You're not going to be able to grow up big and strong. You're going to be a 98-pound weakling or something like that. But I told her, I made a promise to my friend. This is what we're doing. And it just progressed from there. She tried to get me to eat meat, and I consistently refused. And at some point, she stopped asking, stopped prodding. And from there, what she started to do was ask me, how are you going to get your vitamins? How are you going to grow up big and strong? How are you going to have protein? How are you going to have all these things? So I had to figure it out. Back in those days, there were not a lot of books around. There was not that I had access to. So the process of me not eating meat was an experiment on myself, right? So over years, I just kept learning and I kept trying and testing. And I eventually found out that for me, I'm not saying this is for everyone, but certainly for me, I do better without eating beef and pork and chicken and eggs and cheese and dairy products and all those things. It's just better for my constitution.
Sure.
And it just progressed from there. Fast forward quite a few years, and I've got my nursing degree and realized I'm a public health nurse, so I was working with large, like whole zip codes of people, whole neighborhoods of people, primarily undocumented people from South and Central America, and people who have very few resources. You know, these are people who are very, very they're struggling to get by. And it became really clear that the first generation that gets here from the other country does pretty well. They're eating the way that they always did back in their other countries. So mostly they're eating more plants and more, rice and beans and things like that. Not a lot of meat. The second generation in this country begins the American diet, which is a lot of fast food, more ultra processed foods, not a lot of vegetables, more dairy products and things. And statistically, what we see is that the second generation is where the typical American diseases start to manifest. So you'll see in that second generation, more diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, cancers, asthma, all these things start showing up. So that's really, it's a culmination of over years of my experimentation on myself and then my professional education in health and observation in public health that really led me to just dive deeper and deeper into food as medicine. And how do you prevent illness? How do you reverse illness? How do you use food to keep ourselves as healthy as possible?
And one of the things you stuck out too is, kind of being in that position of a 15-year-old and seeing your parent worrying about the prices of things. And now as the adult, now being in those shoes, right? Of now, like, when you're 15, you're not realizing like, gosh, like, why are you stressing about this? Like you're stressing about like the cost. And now we're the adults now, and we're the ones that are worried about the cost of the things. And our kids are over
Yes.
here being like, why are you worried about the cost of this, this, this? It's just like that interesting shift of that mindset of being like the kid and now, being in the adult shoes. And you kind of touched on something that I'd love to follow up on is, the trend of childhood obesity and diabetes and, kind of talk a little bit through about how you plan to help reverse some of those trends through the work that y'all are doing.
Thanks so much for asking that. This is something literally wakes me up in the morning and puts me to bed at night. I have just a passion for our children. We have now research that shows at birth, children have fatty streaks in their coronary arteries. That's literally the beginning of heart disease in a newborn, right? We have research that shows by 2 years old, obese little 2-year-olds, that is often the precursor for a lot of issues like diabetes and high blood pressure, heart disease. Kids getting diagnosed with diabetes, they don't call adult onset diabetes adult onset anymore. Juvenile diabetes exists in children. Yes, that's type 1 diabetes. Usually requires insulin to manage. Adult onset now occurs in 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old children. And that's related to obesity. So if I could make a difference in this world in my lifetime, it would be to see the trends in type 2 diabetes, especially in children, begin to decline. The best way that I can do that is working with our nonprofit as well as other nonprofits and educating. We educate about the value of food as medicine, what you eat, your food patterns, the impact of how the food lands in the body, and how we can prevent those chronic illnesses that are affecting so much of our population. 97% of our kids don't even get enough fiber in a day, and fiber only comes from plants. Fiber is how we feed our immune system. Fiber is how we make sure the gut can actually speak to the brain. That's a whole science by itself, So if I could do anything, in a course of a day, highlight of my day is to speak with adults and children about the impact of their food choices and that they have a choice. They don't have to have type 2 diabetes for crying out loud.
Right.
They don't have to have a heart attack. There are options.
Right.
Have you ever wondered how some people's stories live on, not just through their work, but through history itself? For nearly 130 years, Marquis Who's Who has been documenting the lives of leaders, innovators, and changemakers across every profession. From CEOs and scientists to artists and educators, Marquis has captured the stories behind success, the people who define our times. Being listed in Marquis Who's Who isn't just recognition, it's taking control of your personal brand and using it to create a meaningful and impactful legacy. It's a record of your life's work, preserved, published, and accessible to generations who will study, research, and be inspired by your contribution. If you've built something meaningful and you've made an impact in your field or community, this is how you ensure your story is told and your personal brand is maintained accurately with integrity. Visit MarquisWho'sWho.com to learn more about how you or someone you admire can be featured, because history remembers those who take the time to record it.
Thinking about how you're going about that and some of the organizations and the work that you've created with the 6 million seeds and the more plants on plates, that this is not, your wish is, hey, it's going to happen today, tomorrow, but this is something that needs to take time and it needs to grow and needs to be, nurtured in sunlight. And so talk a little bit about those two programs and how they're trying to help you shape this vision.
Sure. Thanks. So 6 million seeds is like an umbrella, right? A lot of other projects fall under that heading. 6 million seeds started as a child nutrition education project where we would go into schools, and still do, go into schools and educate children directly about the value of eating more plant foods. So we go into a classroom and we bring a whole salad bar, or we bring an eat the rainbow kind of exercise. We encourage the children to try foods they've never tried. There's no animal products, or, there's no eggs, there's no cheese, there's no meat. So there's no risk or drastically reduced risk of foodborne problems, illnesses, tummy upsets, and, things like that. So we give them experience of eating things like blueberries or tart cherries or red cabbage or radicchio or endives or, anything, things that they haven't had before. That opens a conversation where we also talk about how it affects your body. Why do we eat? What do we get from food? Yes, we eat for social reasons, but we also eat really, we're eating to nourish the body, right? And what is it that you choose when you're nourishing the body? And from there, we can go on to talk about how our food system impacts the planet. Like, for instance, it is our food system largely that's driving the deforestation in the rainforest. Well, nobody wants to deforest the Amazon, honestly, right? At least nobody admits to that outright. So, that's the kind of things we do under that project. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be able to work with children that way. More plants on plates is kind of the other side of the coin. Whereas 6 million seeds works a lot with individual children or individual groups of children. More plants on plates works with whole schools. So we offer a micro grant to encourage the food service director at a school to try out other foods for the center of plate option. So instead of having a corn dog, you could offer the children falafel or a black bean burger or veggie nuggets or something like that, and get them to try out other kinds of foods at the same time as you're helping to increase the fiber in their diet, decrease the sugar and ultra-processed foods in their diet, take out the problematic chemicals that can be associated with processed foods, things like that. So those are the two pretty large projects that we work on almost every day. The beautiful thing is, in the state of Illinois, which is where our nonprofit is sort of rooted, we've been able to reach about 7,000 kids. And there's a law in the state of Illinois that allows for children to ask for a plant-based lunch. So we also encourage parents to request the plant-based lunches, and we provide support for the food service teams education, vendors, transition management, change management. Yeah. So it's a pretty comprehensive program, we like to believe, and it's been pretty successful so far.
Yeah, I love that. And as a father of two daughters that are under the age of 5, I'm more than and many other parents that understand how challenging it can be to get a child to eat a vegetable, especially something that's green, right? For other parents out there, like, what are a couple like tips? I don't want to say tricks or hacks or things like that, but like, what is the best way, or what have you found from your experiences is the best way to introduce these vegetables to someone who, is a picky 5-year-old?
You know what? This is one of the best questions ever. They go through the beige food phase. I
Yep.
don't want to eat anything that isn't the color of white Pop-Tart.
Yes. Very familiar with that stage.
Yes. So there's a couple things you can do, Nick. I feel like, okay, let me coach you. Okay. So what you can do is continually offer other foods. Now, truth is, a child may take up to 20 times of being offered a new food before they accept it. That's like a biological thing. It's so universal. It's, at least in this country, it's universal. They defend themselves against anything that's too new. Besides, evolutionarily, if I'm eating something new, it might kill me. This could be poisonous. I don't want to eat it right off, gorge myself on something that could hurt me. So it's a protective thing, and we have to remember that. So we keep offering, let's say you're offering broccoli. There's a sort of stereotypical thing, offer broccoli. Well, maybe they rejected the first time, but the first time you steamed it, they didn't like it that way. Next time, maybe you offer it again and you roast it. Maybe they don't like it that way. Next time you offer it again and it's cut up, but it's with rice, right? And it got onions and maybe you got some garlic and they eat it that way. You could put it in a casserole. You could give it a cheese sauce or some kind of a dip that you're putting it in, right? If you're completely plant-based, there are plant-based cheeses you can use, right? Or you can make at home sauces. Literally can take up to 20 times. So that's one thing. Don't give up. My pediatrician used to tell me, do not cave. Do not cave to the little child's whim. Do not do that. So you keep offering. As you're offering, keep your spirits up too. Don't make it like really, you're going to eat this and you're going to like it. Don't do that. Make it fun, make it kind of lighthearted. Value them for being brave and trying something new. Okay, you got something in your mouth you never had before. It's broccoli. Yeah, that's could be a little bit gnarly feeling in the mouth if you never had that before. Tell me, what is it like? Is it, it's bumpy. Oh, it feels like hair. It feels like bugs. That's interesting. Try some more, and you go like that. It may 20 times easily to offer. Another thing you can do is encourage your children to learn how to cook. If they help cook the meal, they are way more likely to eat it. So get them in the kitchen, teach them how to chop. There are nylon knives you can buy if you're afraid of them cutting themselves. There are cut-proof gloves you can get if you're afraid of them hurting themselves. Teach them to chop. Ask them to choose the recipe even. Which recipe should we do tonight? That helps. Gets buy-in, right?
Yeah.
Another thing is to take them to the store and encourage them to help you shop. So I've kind of like gone reverse order. First you're going to shop, then you're going to cook it, and then you're going to give it to the kid to eat.
Right.
But shopping is another way. Make it fun. Tell them, tonight you chose the recipe. I'm sticking with broccoli, sauteed broccoli with cheese sauce. Okay, where's the broccoli in the grocery store? Let's go find it. How does it look? Look at that. It's kind of bruised looking, or the tops are kind of, that one looks really good. That looks firm. That looks tight. So you work with them that way, get them involved that way. If you can, in fact, grow vegetables, that's another way. Because what they grow, what they shop for, what they cook is way more likely what they'll eat. And just don't give up. Encourage them to try more. Talk to them about how good it is for them, how good it is for their, helps them think and learn and, recover from exercise, whatever we say,
I think that last one too of the growing it is such a valuable point, because like in my own experience, we did have that happen. Like we have a garden in our yard and we grow like, some, tomatoes and onions and carrots and cucumbers and things like that. But the thing my 5-year-old attached to was the sweet peas, the sugar snap peas, because
Yeah.
she helped us plant the garden. And so every day she would walk out there and be like, oh, the peas. Like she was super invested in that. And I guess it didn't really click until you just mentioned it about how valuable that was, because she didn't eat peas on her plate. Like if we had just bought them at the store,
Right.
but when she picked it off the vine, then she would eat it right there.
Isn't it something?
Like it was so, now that you say it and now that it kind of clicks over on my side of that ability to kind of help plant it. And she was so invested in the garden and anything that grew. And, she was more willing to try things, like 100%. She was more willing to try when it grew than if, we just put it on her plate.
Yes. That is well proven. If
Mhm.
you're supporting the research,
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons they have gardens in a lot of schools. Maybe they get the garden due to a grant, and maybe they aren't able to use a lot of the produce that comes from the garden in the school actually.
Yeah.
But it encourages children to try things right there when they're out in the yard.
Right.
Tending the garden, the children try different fruits and vegetables, and that's one way we get them to test.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And she was so sad this year. We had planted pumpkins as well because we were planting them ahead of Halloween.
Halloween.
We were going to grow them, and she was going to be able to have and carve her own pumpkin. And then we got squash bugs, and it took it out. She was so sad. She was so sad because we would go out there and we had these little pumpkins that were growing, and then they didn't get big enough, and the squash bugs showed up, and she was so sad. She was
that
so
is
sad
sad.
about that.
Yeah.
But it's such a valuable point, because everything you're saying is, the reintroducing as well. Like it took us a long time, but now she's like, oh, she'll eat some sweet corn, and she'll eat some peas, like the broccoli and green beans. We're not quite there yet, but it's funny. All the things you're saying is the things that I'm going through right now with my child, and in being able to go through that, and the constant reintroducing and the reinforcement and the positivity. And we have a 3-bite rule in our house where it's like, hey, just take 3 bites. Just take 3 bites of it. If you like it, great. If not, as you said, we'll find a different way to introduce this to you. But we got to try. We don't know, because the defense mechanism makes sense too. Because they always feel like, no, it's spicy. My daughter says it's spicy is the word she uses when she doesn't like something. So
That's great. That's great. That reminds me of a story of a kid we visited with. Well, he was in one of the classes that we went to. And the first day we went into the class, when we brought a large, big pot. It wasn't an instant pressure cooker type thing. And it was full of spiral pasta and marinara sauce. And we had added zucchini and some Italian spices. And this little boy, we open up the pot, and the class is all excited. Who doesn't get excited if someone's bringing food to the classroom? But usually people are bringing donuts and cookies or cupcakes or something to a classroom. This time we're bringing spiral pasta and marinara, right? So this little boy looks in the pot, and he gets this horrified look on his face. And he says, I don't eat spices. And I thought to myself, wow, that's quite the response. I can't imagine what that means. Now, this same little boy, from that horrified beginning, by forced to 5 classes or sessions in, he was literally, what do you have for me to try today? I want to eat red cabbage. I want to try tart cherries. Whatever. So it does change. One other thing I think is really useful. Positive peer pressure is a beautiful thing, right? So if you can get a group of kids together, and at least 3 of them are trying something new, and the other 6 are kind of sitting around going, I don't know, I don't eat that. I never had that. I don't know. The 3 kids will influence the other kids. Try it, smell it. If you don't like it, don't eat it. Not a problem.
Yeah.
By the end of our time working in classrooms, the kids are pretty much won over. There might be one little kid left who's got some sort of defensive tactile, I can't stand that texture in my mouth kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the rest of them are they're transformed children. That's what I like to say.
So Meryl's advice: substitute out the pizza parties, bring in the vegetable parties.
Or like veggie pizza.
Veggie pizza, yeah. Works too. I kind of want to zoom out a little bit from the plant-based nutrition movement and kind of zoom in on you. Like, what do you like to do outside of work? What are you doing in your free time? Like, just let's dive into that and how you give back to your community.
Free time. I like to travel when I can. These days, technically, I'm supposed to be retired, but I'm not, right? I do nonprofit, which is more than full time. But I do have the opportunity to set my own vacation schedule. So I like to travel to places I've never been before, inside and outside the United States is great. I like to spend time with my now adult children. That is such a beautiful thing. Just to tie it back to food, which my life circles around food. It is around food all the time. But I have 3 adult children, and when we get together, we cook. It's not up to me to provide the meal, and we're not really usually going out to eat. Thanksgiving, it's a full court press on the meal. Same thing for Christmas. We cook a lot. We invent recipes. All 3 of them are really good cooks, so that helps a lot. That's fun. And then a lot of my time, I'm a food nerd. I'm a nerd. I read studies and I write articles and do a lot of presentations. A lot of my travel, at least in the middle of the trip, it'll be me I'm at a medical conference or I'm at some place presenting. And then maybe I'll have extra time on the front end or the back end to enjoy the local scenery and economy. So yeah, I think that's really it.
Yeah.
A lot of my life focuses on food and the impact of food. I like to look at native culinary practices, local culinary, local food stylings and things like that.
Sure. So from your travels, I don't want to put you on the spot of putting any cuisine above anything else, but what are some of the more exotic? What's one of the more exotic things that you found that maybe you were also like that 5-year-old that was like, I don't know, defense mechanism that you then like overcame and you tasted and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. I don't know. Do you have anything in mind?
So I'm thinking I went on a trip to Southeast Asia. So it was Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand. Cambodia, I think it's Cambodia. The trip is a bit of a blur, but I think it was Cambodia. The local practice and tradition is they eat a lot of smaller insects. I had no idea. So wasp larvae, red ant larvae, tarantulas, silkworms. That was one of the more surprising things I've ever seen. It gave me a whole new respect for variety in your diet. Like, wow. Now, truth be told, I do not eat animal products. That's, like I said, that just doesn't work for my constitution, nor for psychologically. And the idea of eating tarantulas, no, that is not a snack I'm interested. Deep fried tarantulas, no, not me. Now the people it was something. It was something.
Yeah.
Amazing. We stopped in a small village. I believe it was called Tarantula Town, and the people there harvest tarantulas. They go out in their backyards and dig them out of the ground. Amazing. And then I'm sure there's a lot of ways people eat tarantulas, but the way that we were offered was deep fried. I didn't. That was the 5-year-old in me going. Actually, there's a picture of me with this horrified look on my face. But that was the 5-year-old in me. Me going.
I probably would have done the same thing. I would have like, I'm adventurous. I'll try something, but that I don't know about that one. You've touched on a couple times of just being part of the community and traveling, and so like for you, how important is that for you to give back to your community and try to bring this healthier mindset towards a larger portion of people?
Yeah, Nick, that is about the most important thing I can do in a day. I always get teary-eyed, and I apologize.
It's okay.
But it is, I see myself as a mom probably first. I was a mom before I was a nurse. And it was the most important thing for me to make sure my child and then children stayed as healthy as possible, because a sick child is a sick child. A sick child dominates the household. A sick child feels a certain way about themselves. And then that sick child grows up and may not feel that they have, or let me put it this way, they may continue to feel the same challenges that they felt as a child. It is unconscionable to me and unacceptable to me that we do not do everything we can to keep our children as healthy as possible. Convenience should never come first when it comes to how we take care of our children. If we have to invest our time, our money, our energy, if we have to go learn more, do more, that's what's important. They're children. They depend on the adults in the room. They're at the whim of the environment around them all the time. We as adults have a biological responsibility, a charge to take care of these children to the best of our ability. So, okay, I'm off my soapbox. But that's the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
I would love to see diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, and childhood cancers reverse in my lifetime. The trend, which is on a trend like this, if you look at a chart, it's at a 45-degree climb since 1970 something.
Yeah.
We do amazing things. We invent things all the time. How can we not take time to reverse, to teach our children better, to do better ourselves? How can we not?
Yeah. That was such a...
Did I answer your question?
Yes. I mean, and some. That was such like a heartfelt response. And I don't know if I can, that was so amazing. And like the mission is wonderful of what you're doing. And, we typically end this by asking a couple like lightning round, like questions that are a little bit more lighthearted. And I'm trying to kind of
You do.
get in more of this lighthearted mood because that was so touching. And, okay.
Go ahead.
We'll
I'm
wrap
ready.
it up. We got a couple questions. Okay. I actually kind of asked it before with the kind of the I guess the more unique food that you've tried. So, okay. I think I'm going to know the answer to this one because you've been this way since you were 15. But if you could go back and start your career over, would you have made any different choices?
I think I would have.
Yeah.
I went into nursing, which is a great profession. Still among, I think, the top 5 most trusted professions in the country, if not in the world. Great, great profession. But my heart really is in prevention, illness prevention, and nursing may not necessarily be involved in that. Illness prevention tends to be in natural medicine and natural health and things like that. So I might have gone that direction instead of into nursing.
Sure.
Not like I have any regrets about being a nurse.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have done both.
Sure. Okay. That's 1. 2, throughout the course of your career, personal life, professional life, what would you say is one of the most important lessons that you learned? You can boil it down to 1.
Oh, only 1. Okay. Most important lessons. Well, my mother used to tell me, leave the world better than you found it. And take care of people who can't take care of themselves. And that has basically been my mission for a long time. And the path that I take is through food.
Yeah. And with that path, you've talked about how important food is, how valuable it is to your life. You're a scientist basically with food, and you're studying and you're doing it with your family. What is the one home cooked meal when all the adult kids are home? What's the one that they go, Mom, this is what we're making?
Probably a roasted vegetable lasagna that's made with spinach and roasted butternut squash and mushrooms and onions, garlic, and then the cheese, because we don't really eat cheese, not animals, not from animals. The cheese is made from either cashews, soaked cashews with some herbs and spices, some nutritional yeast, a little bit of lemon, or it's made from cauliflower and potatoes. And we season that up really good and just layer it like you would any other lasagna. Maybe we use a whole grain pasta, or I like lentil pasta is great. That's one of the favorite meals. That's one I get a request for.
Yeah. I love that. That sounds amazing. My wife also that's one of my favorite things that my wife wakes is a lasagna. Like, I don't know what it is about a lasagna. That's
It's so
just
comforting. It just
is.
checks all the boxes, right?
does. Like, it can be hot outside, it can be cold outside. Like, it doesn't matter. It just
Right.
you get home on a Thursday night or something and you can just smell it in the oven, right? And you're
Yes,
just like, Mom made lasagna, like just a winner.
yeah.
Well,
Tastes
Meryl,
like love.
so much so. Meryl, thank you so much for joining me. If people want to find about what you're working on, if they want to learn more about you and your mission, where can they find you?
Well, our website is pbnm.org. That stands for Plant-Based Nutrition Movement, .org. Or you could just Google that, Plant-Based Nutrition Movement. You can also, oddly enough, my name is Meryl Fury. I have not met another one of Meryl Fury. I haven't met that person. I'm the only one that I know of. So technically, you could just Google my name, and I'm probably who's going to show up. You could also look at moreplants.plates.org. I think it's More Plants on Plates USA.org. And you can find us there. Those are probably the easiest ways. And then if you're want to do Facebook, Meryl Fury. There's only one. You want to do Instagram? Meryl Fury. You want to do TikTok? Meryl Fury.
Okay. Well, we now know how to find you. Meryl, what does being a marquee listee mean to you?
It's a big honor. It means that the work I'm doing isn't going unnoticed. It's a way to expand the message, get more people thinking and talking and normalizing the ideas that child nutrition is important and that food as medicine is a viable avenue to manage your health. It's very powerful. It's a deep honor, deep honor. I'm so grateful.
Meryl, again, thank you so much for sharing your recipes, your mission, and the work that you're doing with me today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nick. It's been a pleasure.
Well, hey, if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone you think would find it valuable. And if you'd like to hear more conversations with people who are reshaping industries, challenging conventional thinking, and leading with purpose, head over to marquiswhoswho.com and subscribe to the Marquis Masters podcast. Reviews also help people discover the show, so if you enjoyed the episode, leave a rating, let us know. Let us know what your favorite recipe is for other individuals that might also want to share their family recipes. Thank you so much again to my guest, Meryl Fury, for joining me today. I am Nick Franck. We'll catch you for the next time here on the Marquis Masters podcast.